Quickly moving on, ladies and gentlemen, here on the right stand, where the Indian probe agency for over months now, the NIA, National Investigation Agency, has been unearthing a particular terror module which has a combination, a hybrid mutation, if I may say, of various terror fountainheads, be it the Simi, be it the ISIS ideology, or even Lashkar elements. During the probe, the security agencies have unearthed that it's not just the IS or the Islamic State. Two other terror outfits, Simi, erstwhile Simi, Student Islamic Movement of India, which evolved into another banned organization, that's the PFI, and Indian Mujahideen too, were involved in the recent Pune case. These evolved into PFI, which also stands banned, indicating regrouping under one umbrella. Intel sources are revealing to News18 that Shahnwaz, the main suspect in this module, has revealed startling information. Have a look at some of the revelations. First up, started learning to make IED in 2019-2020. Shahnwaz is an engineer by qualification, educated individual, got in touch with a foreign handler, learned IED making from the handler via online classes, made explosives and conducted dry runs, not one but 3 dry runs in Rudraprayag, in Nuh and Delhi. 2 were unsuccessful, 1 was successful. 1 out of the 3 dry runs was successful. Handler asked Shahnwaz to move to Pune and then link up with yet another group which was already operating there, and they had come from Chittorgarh. They also learnt IED making. Recce done in Gujarat marketplace, Karnataka coastal areas, in Kannur and in Mumbai, and they used to go in twos on bikes and then go ahead and do these recce's. Plan was to target Hindu leaders, Jews and public places. So there is a clear element of religious fundamentalism and hatred towards certain entities. He was reportedly in touch with also a group from the Aligarh Muslim University. So that's how there were 3 groups that were reportedly operating: Pune, Aligarh and Delhi. And more importantly, the group's ideology was driven by the IS ideology, Islamic State ideology, that followed this entire thought process that kafir should not be spared. Let's go across to Sushant Sareen and SN Srivastava, former Commissioner of Delhi Police, joining us this evening. Namaste and Jai Hind, gentlemen. SN Srivastava ji, does this come as a surprise to you that terror fountainheads are actually combining ranks? And where does this deep-rooted hatred stem from?
Well, it's no surprise because we have noticed over many years that the terror modules, they manifest themselves in different forms and they work together. And the main, the motivation comes from our neighboring country, the Pakistan. Well, you have spoken about the ISIS, the Indian Mujahideen and others, but even in this case, you may have noticed that it was ISIS, it was like, in name of ISIS, it was Pakistan ISI which were trying to motivate and indoctrinate, radicalize the 3 youths who have been caught in Delhi, and they were wanting to create a terror attack in Delhi. So it's no surprise, but at the same time I would like to say that the Indian intelligence agencies and the agencies of the state police also, they are working together, and they have been able to, every time they have been able to unearth such people who have such designs who of trying to commit terror in Delhi. They have been caught. Ever since 2013, if you remember, that was the month of February, Indian Mujahideen has been dormant or wiped out to a large extent. And the ISIS sometimes and the basically pak-isi, they try to create some kind of problems by trying to indoctrinate, radicalize youths who through the social media, and this is how they are carrying out their activities.
But what is the motivation to combine, that eventually the thought process is the same? And these are educated individuals, S.N. Srivastavaji. How would educated individuals get so highly radicalized that they believe that one section of society needs to be wiped out? They deserve to die.
See, the last question that you have asked me, educated society. You see, what happens is that in the present day world where you are basically depending on communicating with each other through social media, the very highly technical way to communicate with each other. So and also manufacturing or making of IDs. So such things cannot be done by somebody who is illiterate or who doesn't know the technical matters. So the earlier also when we had done many actions against the Indian Mujahideen, we found that the most of the persons who have been caught, they had a technical background. So here also the three chaps who have been arrested, they have technical backgrounds. Now coming back to your earlier questions, they are combining with each other. Initially, as you know, SIMI was formed, and later on, at the instance of Pakistan, from SIMI, a group called Indian Mujahideen was created. I mean, it was not necessarily all the inmates of the Indian Mujahideen were from SIMI, but they came from other parts also. Right. And through personal contact, through radicalization, by each other, they formed this Indian Mujahideen. So this shifting or combining together by various terror modules have been happening for a long time.
Okay.
And it is happening even now. And such youths who are radicalized and educated ones, those who have technical backgrounds, they have from time to time they have been raising their head and creating some, combining together to create a terror attack. But as I said, that the intelligence agencies, they are vigilant, and they have been able to neutralize every time for the last almost 10 years. Every time these the anti-nationals have been trying to create some problems, they have been neutralized.
Well, our group editor security Manoj Gupta got us these details, and interestingly, he has actually pointed out that there is a connection. There is a connection with the auto blast case, the explosive recovery in Chittorgarh, and there are connections which also with certain other instances that happened, like Mangalore, like the 2016 Ratlam ISIS case and the recent Pune case. All are linked to a common terror umbrella. So we can't look at these individual incidences in isolation, Sushant Sareem. We have to build a chronology and a chain, and it looks like a sequential group, a group which had multiple operations across the country. We've busted them one by one. But here is the threat. We need to catch them 10 on 10 times. They need to get it right only 1 in 10 times.
Yeah, Anand, that's always a problem. It's a cat and mouse game. And even if one of these operations slips through the cracks, and there will be cracks, then you have a terror incident. So that's a given. And I think people of the country need to, have a certain degree of equanimity. It's easy for somebody like me to say it as long as I don't lose my relatives in a bomb blast or a terror attack. But the fact of the matter is, as a country, there's a certain amount of equanimity needs to be there on how we look at some of these terror attacks, because there will be something that slips through the crack. Secondly, Anand, on this whole network business, now we don't have the details. Probably Manoj Gupta's report will be coming out today or maybe tomorrow, and we get some more details. But the fact of the matter remains that given the kind of revelations which have come out so far, it does not surprise me that obviously this is a network. This is a network in which there are different cells. Not all of them are connected with each other, but there is somebody who is running this network. Now, it makes sense. See, a lot of people are motivated by religious hatred. They are motivated by a particularistic kind of reading of the religion. They are isolated and insulated from other opinions, and because of social media, and these new means of communication
Ji.
seem to be giving people exactly what they want. So, a lot of people don't get the other views which are also being expressed.
Right.
So, it's easier to indoctrinate these guys. So, that's not surprising. What is the issue is that many of these guys, apparently, again, I could be wrong because details are sketchy right now. None of these guys are motivated by anti-Indiaism as such. It's more religious hatred, number one. Which is why if there is an ISI guy who's pretending to be ISIS, frankly, it's just an S which is missing. ISIS is, or I've always maintained ISIS is the plural of ISI. But if there is something like this, they use the ISIS label because that is more attractive to these guys. Maybe if they were to use Pakistan as a label and a motivation, people would not be motivated. But when you use ISIS, you create that whole thing of a caliphate, and this whole religious indoctrination goes on. That probably propels a lot of people into this direction. Finally, Anand, I think one of the biggest mistakes we make, and again, this is probably, we look at it from our standpoint of rationality, that people who get educated, are able to discern what is right and what is wrong, or are able to, reject fanaticism. But the fact of the matter remains that there is no such correlation.
Okay.
In fact, if there is a correlation, it is that the more people are educated, and this is a paradox really, because this is a paradox that does not fit into our conception or what we have been fed.
Got it.
That it is only the illiterate guy who takes to this thing. Actually not. You will hardly find an illiterate guy getting involved in these kind of activities. You will not find a poor man getting involved in this activity. You will always find middle class, maybe lower middle class, and maybe well-to-do people getting involved in this activity. You will find people who have very fancy jobs. Somebody is working in a Google, somebody is working in some other Microsoft or something. Somebody like these guys, they are engineers. They are technical people. Somebody is doing a PhD. So they come from well-to-do families. These are the guys who are getting involved, and that is again not a surprise to anybody who looks at the profiles of terrorists. So very often you will see people with a technical education, because in a technical education and in a science kind of an education, you look at black and white. There are no shades of grey. Somebody like who's come from a humanities stream, I look at shades of grey. I always try and look at something like that. Perhaps you too. But most of these guys who come from, say, who studied hardcore technical stuff, they look at things in black and white. And it's much easier to indoctrinate them. And again, there's a lot of literature on this. There's a lot of literature on how attractive, this kind of fanaticism is for engineers in particular. Also doctors. But engineers more than doctors. So that don't conflate education with fanaticism. And don't conflate poverty with fanaticism. I think these are shibboleths that we have created, and when we see these shibboleths shatter, we are a little surprised why that is happening, because these are fallacies which the sooner we shun, the more easier it is to understand what exactly is underway.
Well, we will be getting more details in the coming days, and if there is a correlation since 2016 till now, 2023, it's the same umbrella, a coalition of these terror outfits and these terror streams, then we've got a big challenge ahead of us. Sushant Sareen and S.N. Srivastava ji, thank you very